Guys, okay, I have a serious problem on my hands. I'm getting ready to paint this kit, and look at this. This is the bazooka parts for the HD Origin Gundam, and if you take a look at how these parts fit together, they fit together around this part like that. And you got this big seam line going all the way down here. Now, how am I supposed to remove that? I need to remove that, but if I glue this seam line, then it's stuck to these gray pieces. I'm not going to paint this all one color. I'm not an idiot. I need to paint this two different colors. This needs to be white or whatever, and this needs to be gray. So what the hell am I gonna do? Oh, relax, guys, relax. All right, we can take this apart, we'll modify it. It's really easy. And Bandai even gives you the lines to do it. There's a lot of ways that you could do this really, and one example would be to just glue these parts like that, or before you do that, just cut out this peg there at the end, which goes through this hole in this gray part, so then you could just slide this straight over that. But the problem is this little tiny little bit of detail there at the end that you need to slide over, that it actually needs to like hook around this little gray square there. So another option that you could do is just also cut away that little gray square, or just like cut that down so that it's like a little bit shorter or something like that, so it's like not in the way when you need to move this part past that. Or also just cut that little tiny part off there, then that would just make a little gap there, and that would be really easy as well. So if you did it like that and the white part is then slid onto there where it has that little notch there of white, it would just be kind of cut off a little bit, something like that. And so probably no one's ever going to notice that. That would be a really simple way to do this. So just cut off that little tab there, cut off this peg and the one on the opposite side, glue your seam line, do your thing, and then it would just slide over this gray part very easily. But I'm going to do it a little bit differently, where I'm just going to cut this here at this line to separate that, and then so this whole front part will be on here, and then those parts will just be stuck onto here permanently. So basically all you're going to need is a little micro saw like this. This is, for example, just one from Wave, and again, because you've already got the line detail there, all you have to do is just give this a few strokes to get that cut off. And yeah, let's just cut it off here first. So once we got those separated, and you can see we can put the small bits into place in here. And the main shaft there, once the seam is removed on that, we can just slide. What? We can just slide. What? Oh no. It's also got that little tab there which fits into this little spot there on the gray part. So don't worry guys, it's also very simple to fix. Basically the easier thing to do would be just to cut out that little tab there, or on the gray part here, just cut this down so that it's not getting in the way of anything. So I think probably this is going to be easier just to remove this little part on the inside of the white part here. I'm just gonna nip this out a little bit here with the nippers, and it should be enough so that nothing's really in the way. So then, as I was saying, it should fit right onto there like that. So there you go. It's a little bit kind of loose on there, but again, it's the kind of thing you just put a little drop of glue on there. Later, once everything's all painted, you're good to go. You can slip that right onto there. Point is that I can paint the whole main part of the bazooka here, or the main barrel, in a separate color, and not have that be any problem with that. So alright, cool. As for the seam lines on the regular early type beam rifle and the cannon here on the backpack, I went ahead and already just removed those seam lines as well. There was some on there, and as you can see, these have undergone some sanding, so they're dusty and need to be washed clean to get all that dust and gunk off there. But there's some seam lines on here. It wasn't anything special to those, just sandwich the parts together, just remove that seam. There wasn't anything special to it, so I didn't really feel the need to show that to you guys. Though, as for the yellow piece in here for the camera, there's no way to really get that out once that's in there, so I had to drill a little hole in the back. So now I'll have this little tiny hole in the back of there, and I could fill that in with something, or I could put a different option part in there, kind of like what I did with the G40. I had the same thing. So I put a little option part there in the back just to fill the hole. With this one though, I may just not worry about it. I may just leave that there like that, but we'll see. For the time being anyway, it's just the hole there, and I think that'll probably just be just fine. Okay, now that everything's all washed and dry, ready to go for some primer and painting. And sorry, there's some construction or something happening outside my window, so hopefully you guys aren't hearing that noise. But if you are, apologies for that bit of background noise there. But yeah, we're doing the real type color scheme for this, but I want to do it a little bit differently, kind of lighter and desaturated, like a very light version of that. So just like starting from the head down, the head and the beam saber handles are meant to be white, so I'm going to do sort of basically white with that. This is off-white, or warm white, sorry, from the Gaia Notes Virtual Online, and we're going to be doing all Gaia Notes for this. I kind of like, if you guys haven't noticed this, I kind of like to do on my build either all Gaia Notes or all Mr. Color, and not for any particular reason. You can totally mix and match them if you want, doing like one color in this brand and another color in another brand. Just like thematically, I just kind of like to go with either one or the other. Anyway, and then the like upper arms, upper legs, lower legs, and the top of the feet are in a kind of medium gray color on the original kit, but I'm going to use this color, which is from the Gaia Notes Mechatro Wigo color line. This is, let's see, what was it? Ash. Yes, so this is a kind of slightly greenish, gray, brownish, light tan kind of color. So that'll be for all the colors that were originally in gray on the kit. And then for the color that were originally black, parts of the torso and the shoulders, I'm gonna go with this neutral gray 4 here, which is just kind of a medium gray kind of color there for that, rather than black. And then for the parts that were red, this is gonna be kind of like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna need to desaturate this or not. I don't have a really good kind of desaturated red on him, but I have this one. It is the Homura Shu is the name of this other virtual on red color, and it's a pretty brightish kind of red color, so I think I might add a little white or something to desaturate this a little bit. I'll see how it looks. When you see all the colors here together, it actually doesn't look too bad with that being particularly bright. And then for the yellow, I'm just going to use this mild orange color, so it's like obviously kind of clearly yellowish, but it's just called mild orange, once again from the virtual on line. And then for the parts that are in dark green, I'm going to lighten those up quite a bit here with some light green here. So kind of it's a very simple name for that. So those would be the colors. And like I said, the red is pretty bright, but when you see it in the context of all of them together, I think it actually looks kind of alright. And there's not a whole lot of red on the kit, so just a little bit of bright red I think might actually be okay. So I think I might not need to tone that down with the rest of the colors kind of being lightened and the red still being kind of bright. I think it'll actually kind of be okay. I think those colors look pretty good together, it looks like. Then for the frame, I'm not really sure. I think I'm going to do kind of like a mix of these here. This is from the Dugram line of paints, the Desert Yellow, and this is a neutral gray 5 here, which is just like a darker gray. It's a little bit too dark, I think, so adding some of this will lighten it up and also give it a little bit of like a kind of light tan color. So I think maybe a little bit of mix of this for the frame and like kind of hands and joint parts. I'm not totally decided on those yet, so that is subject to change. But for the time being, that's going to be our colors, I reckon. And first off, for the priming, I think I'm just going to prime everything white, because like I said, I want these colors to all be pretty light. So if anything's in gray, then I kind of have to fight that gray tone underneath everything to really build up these paints to get that color nice and true. But if I just prime these in white, I think that'll be better overall. So let's go get to it. Okay, alright guys, so the base painting is done, and so now the next step is going to be going and giving everything a nice gloss coat so we can move on to panel lining and everything. But I'm going through and assembling some of the sections so you guys can now get a look at how the colors are looking, and I'm really happy with how these colors look, especially that red. It's my first time using that red color, and wow, it is so nice. I love it. It's very bright, obviously, as you can tell, and it has like a kind of slight orange and kind of like coral tints to it. So it's a really nice color red. Highly recommended if you can get your hands on it. I know the virtual on paints from Gaia Notes aren't the easiest to get, but if you can, man, wow. And also, this is I had to do some masking on this, and honestly, it's like the most masking that I've done in a while. I typically try to avoid masking as much as possible. but I had to mask this little red section there in the middle, basically paint the red first and then cover that with masking tape and then spray the rest of the chest part there in that dark color. And then, as some of you may have seen, as I posted the little video on Twitter, the little piece there for the little V. And again, typically I would have just hand painted that, but in this time I thought I'll just mask it, paint it just cause. So yeah, I painted the red and then just masked that, painted the yellow for a little V on that. And you can see how these colors are looking. And here on like the legs, for example, for the joints and stuff, I used the Nazca paint for that. It's got like a slight kind of purple tone to it. It's a color that honestly is very close to what we see from Bandai, quite a lot, for like the light kind of grayish blue, purplish kind of color for the joints and stuff, and painted the other parts of the joints in different color. So I think the colors are looking good. The light green, I really like that as well. Masked a couple parts on the weapons as well, like that little part there. It's in a slightly different color there at the end of the barrel, and I'll hand paint in some of the other details in the different colors as well later on. Here's a look at the shield too. I'm really happy with this, and that warm white is so nice. So these colors here with the red and white and that warm red and yellow and the warm white just look really nice there for the shield. Obviously upside down, but this is how it's going to be displayed, upside down like that. And then had to mask around the edges of this so then I could spray the middle of that in that same color as the joints and everything as well. So yeah, I did a little bit of masking, but you know, it wasn't that difficult. It was just some pretty simple masking for some of these sections here. So we'll go ahead and get everything gloss coated, and then we can move on to the detailing. So for the panel lining for this kit, I'm going to be using mostly brown, using the Tamiya panel line accent color brown for this, for pretty much everything. For red and yellow parts, you almost always want to use brown, but then for the green and gray parts, the brown will work for that as well. I am going to be using a little bit of black though, also black probably on just like the parts, maybe on some of these parts for the backpack, and most definitely on these parts that are in a very dark gray, because that brown just won't really show up on this. I'll definitely need some black for these parts, basically for the shoulders and the torso, and that's going to be about it for the black. Maybe a few of like the weapons parts, maybe in the backpack, which are in this gray kind of color. Maybe the black is going to look better on those. We'll try it out and see, but panel lining should be pretty simple. This kit does have a good amount of detail on it, but I think it's not going to really take too long. We'll just go ahead and whip through some of this panel lining, so let's get to work. And as we're getting into the last stages of the build, the panel lining, the detail painting, the decals, in these work in progress videos, I tend to just kind of a little bit skim through these stages because it's all information and things that I've covered in many videos before, so I don't feel the need to like really explain too much about exactly what I'm doing, because I've done it in a lot of different tutorials and things over the years, just talking about the very simple steps of just panel lining and things like that. So I don't really feel the need to explain it, and so I usually just kind of, this portion of the video is pretty short. But what I wanted to just make sure I also explain to you guys is that while this part of the video is very short and just kind of skimmed through, this portion of the process actually does take quite a long time, and it's monotonous and kind of boring. It depends on who you are. Maybe you really like doing panel lining or doing the decal work and things like that, but the important thing is just to know that it takes time, it takes patience, but it's a really important step to just make sure that you take your time doing and do it, you know, with some care, and it will definitely give you a much better result in the end. If it's something you just speed through or just skip altogether, it's just not going to give you as good as results if you just you know, have some patience, take your time, you know, do some nice panel lining, painting in some details, doing all the decal work. Decal work, especially when you're working without any sort of guide for the decals, it takes a long time. It's just something you just have to accept, that it's just a part of the process. And you know, just taking the time to really do it well is going to give you much better results. So that's just what I wanted to make sure I stress to you guys as we finish up this video. The decals on like a small 144 scale kit like this, especially when you're just working with like small little decals and you want to put a good amount of them on there, it takes a while, and the decals are tiny, and it's just yeah, like I said, a little bit boring, a little bit monotonous for me, and it's just a lot of time just spent looking at the kit, looking back at the decals, looking at the kit, looking back at the decals, trying to figure out exactly which decal you want to put where. But you know, it's just something that you just kind of have to do. So that's all I really wanted to say about that, guys. I'm going to be finishing up the video here now in just a moment, as just laying a couple of these main marking decals on here to show you guys. And thank you all so much for watching, and I've got this now pretty much close to done, so I'll be able to show you guys the finished product very soon. If you do have any other further questions or comments, of course, do feel free to ask down below. And as always, thank you to USA Gundam Store for their support as well, guys. Check out the link to their site down below. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye bye.